So today's topic is land use. But before knowing land use, we should learn what is land. So what is land? Land in the business sense can refer to real estate property or property without buildings and equipments that is designed by fixed spatial boundaries. In traditional economics, land is a factor of production along with capital and labor. The sale of land results in capital gain or loss. Under Internal Revenue Service tax laws, land is not a depreciable asset and qualifies a fixed asset instead of a current asset. Land can refer to any real estate or property that is designated by fixed spatial boundaries. Land itself is a valuable resource. Of course, land is a valuable resource. But if it contains natural resources such as oil and gas, its value can increase. Yes, land is a natural resource. But if it contains natural resources such as oil and gas, its value automatically increases. Investing in land is profitable. Investing in land for development can be costly, but at the same time it is profitable and brings risk as well. So investing in land for development can be costly and may come with certain risk, but it can also be a source of profits and value appreciation. Land is used for residential, commercial, industrial, recreational, agricultural and transportational purpose. The basic concept of land is that it is specific area of earth property which clearly delineated boundaries that has an owner. Now this was the concept of land. Now moving on to the concept of land use. Now what is land use? The usage of land is land use in simple words. So land use is the term used to describe the human use of land. It represents economic and cultural activities. Example, agriculture, residential, industrial, mining and recreational uses that are practiced at a given place. Public and private lands frequently represent very different uses. Land use is the way or purpose for which a land or region is used. Of course, in its statement only it is given what is land use. Land use means usage of land. So usage of land can be for various purposes, for cultural purposes, economic purposes or any purpose for which the land is used. So land use is the way or purpose for which the land in a region is used. The interaction between geographical factors and man have resulted in land use. Land use undergoes changes with time. As man's needs have increased, the use of land for different purposes has also increased. Mineral-rich land is used for mining. Land use involves the management and modification of natural environment or wilderness into built environments such as settlements or semi-natural habitats such as arable fields, pastures and managed woods. Land use by humans has a long history, first emerging more than 10,000 years ago. It has been defined as the purposes and activities through which people interact with land and terrestrial ecosystems, and as the total arrangements, activities, inputs that people undertake in a certain land type. Land use is one of the most important drivers of global environmental change. Now, land use is the way or purpose for which land in a region is used. The interaction between geographical factors and man have resulted in land use. Land use is the term used to describe the human use of land. It represents the economic and cultural activities that are practiced at a given place. Public and private lands frequently represent very different uses. Now, for what purpose land is used? Again, that is land use. What is land use? So for what purpose land is used? Land can be used from many purposes. Land use is the term used to describe how humans use land for economic as well as cultural activities, right? So land use is influenced by various factors, various physical factors like climate, soil, topography, minerals and water availability. Again, land use can differ between public and private lands. For example, Parks or wilderness areas are typically owned by the public and are not often used for urban development. Privately owned lands are rarely protected for wilderness use. Land use is also governed by local zoning laws and municipal regulations. Town and city planners and other organizations study land use to understand their outcomes. Now, second, types of land use. Now, what can be the types of land use? There are two types of land use: rural land use and urban land use. In rural land use, there are four types of land: arable land, fallow land, forest land, grassland, or pasture land. In urban land use, there are three types of land use: commercial land use, residential land use, and transport land use. We shall see this one by one. So first land use under rural land use is arable land. Now what is arable land? This is the land under cultivation. Normally this land is under individual ownership. This land can again be classified as per the ownership of the land and types of agriculture. Second is fallow land. Fallow land is the agricultural land which is temporarily not in use. What is arable land? Land under cultivation. Fallow land, agricultural land which is temporarily not in use. In order to improve the fertility of the soil, the farmer does not use a part of his agricultural land for one or two reasons. Third is forest land. A demarcated forest area is also a type of rural land use. From this area, forest products like firewood, gum, grass are obtained. Forests comprise of large trees, bushes, creepers, and grass. Fourth one is grassland or pasture land. Now what is grassland or pasture land? These are the types of land under the ownership of the village or gram panchayat or the government and is used for grazing purpose. This land belongs to the entire village. Very little grassland is under individual ownership. Now moving to urban land use. So what is the urban land use? Urban land use has been an increase in urban settlements in the 20th century. In urban areas, land is used for different purposes. It is necessary to make maximum use of the land. In urban areas with reference to population, the land is limited. Of course, in urban area population is more, land is less. Therefore, the distribution of population is dense. Urban land use can be classified in the following manner. First is commercial land use. Some parts of the cities are only used for commercial purposes. In these areas, there are many shops, banks, and offices. This has given rise to the concept of Central Business District (CBD). For example, in Mumbai, the Fort area or the BKC Bandra Kurla complex. Second one is residential land use. Here the main land use is for residential purposes. Obviously, as the name suggests, residential land use. So for what purpose land will be used? For residential purposes. So residential land use. Here the main land use is for residential purposes. In this area, houses and residential buildings are included. Since population is more in the urban areas, residential land use has increased. The third and the last one is transport land use. Now, as the name suggests, what could it be? Transport land use means the land used for transportation facilities, transportation purposes. So, transport land use. In urban areas, transportation facilities are important for movement of goods and people. For this purpose, different types of transportation facilities are found in cities like public bus stop, railway lines, metro, monorail, commercial vehicles, etc. In addition to this, number of private vehicles has also increased. It is also large. Hence, the cities, roads, railway lines, station, petrol pumps, transport depots, and vehicle repair centers occupy large areas. These are included in the transport land use. Now, public utility area. Under urban land use, there are three more land use. Public utility area. Now, what do you mean by public utility area? An area specified for usage of public work. So public utility area, for the various needs of the population, some services are provided by the local governing bodies, state government or central government. The area under these services comes under this category. Example: hospitals, post offices, police stations, police grounds, schools, colleges, universities, etc. The land use under this category is important. These services diffuse the tensions caused due to the burge ongoing population. Recreational land use. In cities, some areas have to be specially reserved for the entertainment of the population. The use of such spaces is mainly for fields, gardens, swimming pools, theatres, etc. Mixed land use. Now, what do you mean by mixed land use? Mixed land use means mixture of residential areas and entertainment land use. That is recreational land use and the residential land use. Mixture of both these land use. So mixed land use. In some areas we find all these uses together. Such areas are said to have mixed land use. All the land uses put together, or the types of land uses put together, is mixed land use. In some areas we find all these uses together. Such areas are said to have mixed land use. Example: residential areas and entertainment areas. On maps, special colors are used to indicate such areas. Red color is used for residential areas, blue for commercial areas, yellow for agricultural, and green for forest areas. Accordingly. So in urban land use there are 6 types of land use: commercial land use, residential land use, transport land use, public utility land use, recreational land use, mixed land use. Our next topic is, next concept under land use is traditional areas and suburbs. Now, what are traditional areas and suburbs? Rural settlements start outside the boundary areas of urban settlements. Of course, rural settlements start outside from the boundary of urban settlements, but the intermediate area in between is called the transitional area. The area in between the urban area and the rural area is known as transitional area. In this area there is a blend of rural and urban land use. In these areas land use is a mixed nature. In this zone, cultural activities are also of mixed type. Over the time, this area is converted into an urban area and this region becomes suburbs. Example: Bandra, Bhandup, etc. are suburbs of Mumbai city. Now, the area between the rural area and the urban area is known as transitional area. In this area, there is a blend of rural and urban land use. Also, the type of activity going on in these areas is mixed. Cultural activities are also of mixed type in these areas. Now, what traditional areas and suburbs? So, what can be suburbs are areas that are located on the outskirts of cities and towns and are typically characterized by low density housing, schools, shops, and convenience services. Suburbs are typically located within commuting distance of a large scale. An outlying part of a city or town is known as transitional areas. A smaller community adjacent to or within commuting distance of a city is a traditional area. The area between urban areas and rural areas which gets converted into an urban area over time is a transitional area or a suburb. Suburbs are located on the outskirts of cities and towns and are typically within commuting distance of a large city. Density. Suburbs are not as crowded with tall buildings as cities but are not wide open spaces either. Suburbs are typically characterized by low density housing. Suburbs typically have local convenience goods and services available. Suburbs are typically characterized by residents commuting to the city center for work and other activities. Ownership of land and ownership right. Now, this is very important concept under the topic land use. Now, ownership of land. What do you mean by ownership of land and ownership rights? So, in India, land ownership is established through a registered sale deed, which is record of the property transaction between the buyer and the seller. Other documents that can establish ownership include property tax receipts, survey documents, and a record of rights. However, these documents are not at all guaranteed title of the property. Land ownership is the concept of having rights over a piece of land, such as the ability to control it for a long time. Land owners can be individuals, businesses, or governments, and they can acquire land through purchase, inheritance of or birth. Property rights include the legal rights and responsibilities that come with owning property, such as the right to possess, use, and enjoy the property. Property owners also have the right to exclude others from their own property. In India, land and property rights are governed by a complex legal framework that also include tenancy and land reform measures. Land rights and human rights. International organizations have started to recognize the importance of land rights as the part of the right to food. Land ownership and property rights are complex areas of law that vary by country to country. Land ownership is broadly classified as by the access to a land title. Land title is a document that determines the ownership of land or an immovable property. The land title is a document that determines the ownership of land or an immovable property. Having a clear land title protects the right of the title holder against other claims made by anyone on the property. 7 by 12 extract. But before moving on 7 by 12 extract, one more important concept is under the traditional areas and suburbs is the planned cities. What are planned cities? After the Industrial Revolution, urbanization occurred on a large scale throughout the world. Since this urbanization was not well planned, cities began to grow in an haphazard manner. Because of employment opportunities there, a large-scale migration to cities occurred. As a result, the availability of land is always a serious problem in cities. A lot of diversity is visible in the land use of cities. Limited land, varied land uses, and ongoing cities resulted in the thought of having planned cities for the future. Even before a city grows, its land use is predetermined and a planned layout is prepared. Accordingly, the cities developed Singapore, Seoul, South Korea, Zurich, that is in Switzerland, Washington DC, USA, Brasilia, Brazil, Chandigarh, Bhubaneswar, India, etc. are all examples of planned cities. Now moving further to 7 by 12 extract. Now what do you mean by 7 by 12? Means 7 upon 12 extract. This is also again a very important concept under the topic land use. Under land utilization, we have seen how land is put to different uses, right? Now the ownership of land could be private or public. Land registration in this context is done under the revenue department of the government. All the information about the registered land can be obtained from the revenue department in the 7 by 12 extract. One can get to know under whose ownership the land is from the 7 by 12 extract. The extract is a record kept by the Public Revenue Department. Serial numbers 7 and 12 are distinctive sections of the law pertaining to the ownership of land. The 7 by 12 extract is a kind of mirror about the land. This is because just by reading the extract sitting in one place, one can get complete information about that piece of land without actually going there. The register of the revenue department records the details of the ownership rights of the family, status of debts and loans, transfer of ownership and the area under different crops. Village form number 7 and village form number 12 are combined to prepare as 7 by 12 extract. Hence it is termed as 7 by 12 extract. The village forms are available with the talati of every village for land and revenue collection purposes. Under that, the 7 by 12 extract is an extract from the land register maintained by the Revenue Department of the Government of Maharashtra and Gujarat states in India. The extract gives information of the survey number of the land, the name of the owner of the land and its cultivator, the area of the land, the type of cultivation, whether irrigated or rain fed, the crops planted in the last cultivating season. Now, what can be the factors affecting the land use? But before that, how is the 7 by 12 extract read? Occupant class 1 means the land over which ownership rights are available through generations. This is ancestral property. Occupant class 2 means the land given by the government to marginal farmers or landless people. Such land can be sold, leased, pledged, given as charity or transferred only with the sanction of district collector. Below that, assessment, the amount of tax levied on the land is given in rupees or paise. In other rights, the names of other joint holders are included. This also shows the status of loans taken for agriculture and whether they have been repaid or not. Some more information about 7 by 12 extract is as follows. 7 by 12 extract is an extract from the land register maintained by the Revenue Department of the Government of Maharashtra and Gujarat states in India. The extract gives us the information of the survey number of the land, the name of the owner of the land and its cultivator, whether the area of the land, the type of cultivation, whether irrigation or rain fed, the crops planted in the last cultivating season. It also records loans extended to the landowner given by government agencies, including the purpose such as loans or subsidies for buying seeds, pesticides or fertilizers for which the loan was given. The loans could be given to the owners or the cultivators. It is one of the documents that provides evidence of the ownership of the land it represents. In rural areas, the ownership of a particular plot of land can be established on the basis of the 7 by 12 extract. It is called as the record of rights or record of land rights. Last but not the least, and the very important concept under land use is property card. What is property card? A property card is an official document that provides detailed information about a property, including its legal status and ownership. It's an important document for legal proceedings and property transactions. In Maharashtra, a property card is known as Malmatta Patrak. It's issued by local authorities for urban areas, while a 7 by 12 extract is issued for rural areas. A property card can include information such as land type, whether residential or agricultural, plot area and number, land ownership details, tax payment history including paid and outstanding taxes. Property cards are important for legal proceedings because they can help establish ownership and resolve disputes. They can also help with navigating legal processes. In Mumbai, all property owners are required to have a property card. The process for obtaining a property card is straightforward and all the required information is available on the MCGM website. A property card is a public record that provides information about a property as of specific date. It may include details like ownership, that is owners' names and address, valuation, that is land value multipliers like condition factors and site index, assessments, exemption and other assessment, property details, building permit records, topography, utilities and more, location, map block and lot on the assessor's cadastral map, Property cards are updated monthly to reflect transfers and value changes. However, information may not be current and is not guaranteed to be accurate. For questions about the property card, we have to contact to the assessor's office. Property card is the ownership of non-agricultural land is recorded on the property card. This document showing ownership rights and the area of property is made available from urban land records. It has the following information: city survey number, plot number, amount of tax, area of property assessed, right to access, etc. And here our chapter is over.